I don't need my partner to tell me how sexy I am, how handsome I am, whatever, because I already know that from my parents. It's inside me at a fundamental level. So then, when I go to either find a partner or to have sex with a partner, then it's not something I need from her or him, but it's something I'm choosing, a part of myself I'm choosing to share with her or him. And that has a very, very different feel to it. I work a lot with couples at the moment on psychosexual issues, and a lot of the time, a lot of the difficulties come up where one partner is less engaged in sex than the other. And what happens is that the sex is often being used to reinforce or to affirm one or other or both partners' image of themselves. And it creates a hell of a lot of problems. So if we have that inside ourselves, the sex takes on a completely different feel. It's much less pressured, and we're not demanding something of our partner. We're giving them something. And I don't know how that feels to you as I say that. Can you imagine having sex and not needing anything from anybody? Does that make sense to anybody here? Yeah, good. Okay, what I'm going to do a brief exercise. I had one exercise in mind, but I don't think this venue will suit it because it means a lot of moving around. So fortunately, I prepared another one. And what I'm going to ask you is, I want you to think about a lot of questions, and I've written them down. And if you'd like to kind of take one of those and pass them around, please. I'll just grab one for myself. Okay. And these questions, we may not get through all of them or hardly any of them tonight, but you can take this away and think about it. Okay? I've got to put my glasses on. Penalty of old age, I'm afraid. So, can I get my glasses on and these headphones? That could be interesting. Okay. Right. Has everybody got a copy? There should be 50 in this room somewhere. And I don't know whether there's 50 people here. But anyway, all right. If you haven't, you can share with a partner. That's fine. That's all right. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, just take about 5 minutes to think about as many of those questions as you can. So I'll just go through them. What did you learn from your mother about men and their sexuality, and about women and their sexuality? Then the same thing for fathers. What did you learn from both of them about sexual relationships? What did they tell you explicitly? Parents often tell us a lot, and often they don't tell us anything. Mine didn't. But then I did grow up in the 1950s. What were the hidden messages? What did they show you? I don't mean deliberately, but what did they demonstrate to you? And how did they respond to your sexuality in the way that I've been talking about this evening? If you think about it, can you see a connection between this and your current experience of sex and relationships, positive or otherwise? To what extent do you think you might be reacting against this? Like a lot of us think, if you think about your parents and sex, that's pretty damn challenging, isn't it? The idea of your parents having sex. And I imagine that everybody probably would like to do it differently from their parents. That's what I mean by reacting against it. To what extent do you think you might still be influenced by what messages you got from your parents about sex? And finally, I don't know if you'll get to this or not, if you were to let yourself reimagine your experience of all of the above, like supposing you heard the things you really wanted to hear, if you got the messages you really wanted to have, how would you like that to be? What sort of messages would you like to have heard? So what I'm going to ask you to do, how am I doing time-wise? Can someone tell me? 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Fine, brilliant. Okay, lovely. Take 5 minutes just think about as many of those questions as you have time to. I'll time you, okay? And then we'll move on. When we've had that 5 minutes, I'll tell you what the next stage is. Okay? Take your time. When you think you've had about enough time on that, I'm not necessarily going to... Some people are looking like they've done it already.
Yeah, they were thinking about it as you were talking.
You were already thinking about it. Brilliant. We got ahead of me. Fantastic. What I'd like you to do, have a look around the room. Turn around the people at the front. Have a look around the room. Find someone you don't know, you haven't met before. Okay? And just go towards them. Somebody move towards the other. Can you do that for me, please, right now? This is good. Okay, so you don't know anybody. Brilliant. Go and find somebody you don't know. You're going to have to get up out of your seats. Okay, I know you could probably talk for the rest of the evening about this, some of you. For some of you, that was quite a long time. I always find that with these kind of exercises. And for some of you, so much to talk about. How was that as an exercise to do? What did you think?
Very interesting.
Interesting? Any other responses? I've had interesting. What else? Entertaining. Okay, thank you. Insightful. Thank you. Anything else? Awkward. Yes, of course. This is the problem, isn't it? When you're asking people to talk about that with someone they don't know, it can be quite awkward, can't it? But you got through it then. Okay. I'm pleased about that. Thank you. Okay. Is anything anyone wants to share with all of us? One positive or negative? I mean, don't reveal your innermost stuff necessarily in the group, unless you really want to. Yes, please. I've got 10 minutes, thank you. Sorry, I thought you were... I can't see much up the back there. So. Okay, fine. So, anything anyone would choose to share, please?
I'd say Pippa and I both came to an agreement, really, that our parents don't really know best.
Okay, they don't, do they? Okay.
They're in a very different world to the world we're living in now.
Okay, so can you expand on that a bit? What's different? What about the world you live in to the world your parents live in?
I think this mindset of sticking it out.
In a relationship, you mean? Yeah.
Whereas now I think we're in more disposable relationships. It's easier to walk away now.
Okay.
And look for freedom, look for other things.
Yeah.
Whereas, parents' generation, it's like they're not happy.
So
they've had this mindset of like, well, it's not perfect, we can't fix it, but we're going to stick with it because we always have.
Yeah, so they stay in a relationship that they're not happy in.
Yeah.
And how is that for you? I mean, again, stop me if you don't want to tell me, but how is it for you as a child growing up in that atmosphere?
This came out a few days ago, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my mum is very frustrated.
Sure.
My wife, my ex, and I are not getting back together for the sake of the children.
All right.
And it came out like, but you guys stuck together, and we noticed. You know, you didn't hide it from us. We were completely aware that you weren't in a good relationship for a long time.
Sure.
And it wasn't for our benefit.
No. So the excuse is we're staying together for the children, but it actually, you feel like it kind of harms the children. Okay. Please come in.
Children would feel that, but I think the parents do that because of the children in a way. You know, and then also as time passes, it's also like you're getting used to that person. You know, that is
Geoff,
your
if you could just
support.
recap what she said afterwards, is that all right?
What?
If you could just recap what she said afterwards.
Okay. So can you start again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so basically it's all about the parents do what they think is best for the children.
Yes.
And at the same time, as time goes on, they also rely on each other. They're also each other's support mechanism.
Okay, yes, and that is a dynamic of... So what you said here, sometimes it is for the children, but as it goes on, maybe once the children have left home, they end up relying on each other. They're so used to being together.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go on.
And also at the same time, you know, given back to our reptile brain, right? Even though we would rather have something that is bad as opposed to going for something that is unknown to us.
Yes, that's true.
Because we're familiar
So,
to that.
so the statement is that we would rather have something bad rather than go on to something that's unknown for us. And I'm noticing that these are all important questions, and we're avoiding the topic of sex. Aren't we? Can you do come in here, please?
Like we were speaking together, and
Thank you.
I shared the same situation where my parents stayed together because of the children, but
Yes.
they both were having sexual relationships with other people.
Uh-huh.
And so for me personally, they had no barriers for me having sex at a young age.
Uh-huh.
Whereas when I went to them at a young age and said I was thinking of having sex, they didn't want to deal with it. They were like, okay, that's fine. But really, I would have preferred them to say no.
Thank you for bringing that in. So, do you want me to summarise that, Scott? Okay. So, sorry, I don't know your name. Pippa was saying that because her parents were in the same sort of situation as was being described earlier, but they were both having sexual relationships outside of the marriage, and the boundaries around sex were very, very loose. And when Pippa was thinking of having sex, she wanted to... Did you go to your mum or your dad?
My mum.
She went to her mum, and she would really have liked her mum to say, no, don't do it just yet. I don't know how old you were. 15, okay. And that felt actually instinctively to you, that felt a bit early on some level. But she didn't give you that. Fantastic. Thank you so much for bringing that in and for sharing that. But because this is the sort of thing we work on quite a bit in sexual grounding, because I think we let our teenagers down a lot. We think that because often we've grown up, I can speak for myself, in a fairly repressive atmosphere. I was brought up in the 1950s and early 60s, which was pretty repressed. And so when our kids come to us and they're actually looking for boundaries, they're looking for containment for their sexuality, they don't get it. And that is not a good experience, is it? We don't need to go further into that at the moment. So it's interesting. Children look for a lot from their parents around sex. They look for information, of course we know that, and they don't often get it. They get it sometimes from school, but all that tends to be about is learning how to put a condom on and all of that stuff, very little about actual relationships. They look also for a model. What do I do? You know, I mean, particularly, I know Lucy is going to talk about consent later on, but they don't. Thank you, Lucy. Lucy's over there. But they don't learn, girls particularly, that it's all right to say no. And this is a message that should come from parents, particularly from mothers and from fathers. You know, so what you would say to a teenager, actually, it's fine to say no at any stage. And if a boy respects you, he'll accept that. And if he doesn't, he's not worth going out with in the first place. That would have been a nice message to get, maybe, at 15. Okay. Are there any other questions people want to bring in? We've got a couple of minutes, I think. No? Please.
I think nowadays it's a bit more open culturally.
Yes.
And I think in certain cultures you just wouldn't have a conversation.
That's true. Yes. It's interesting that has good things and bad things. It's good that we can talk about it, that's for sure. And certainly, as I said, in my family, 1950s, 60s family, it was really not on the table at all as a conversation. And fortunately, I did have some nice conversations with my dad about sexuality before he died, and we were able to share quite a bit. Anyway, the other side of that, though, is that I think we're overexcited about sex now. And the problem is that we think we ought to be really having a wonderful time because it's all out there and in our face. And often we're not. And we don't know where to go and what to do, which is why it's great that you're all here this evening. I think that's probably more or less all I've got time for. Okay, you've been a fantastic audience. My name is Geoff Lamb.